let's take this photo and make it a freaking blizzard outside. This is way too easy. Alright, using this photo, I want to take her skirt and make it a product photo on a white background. Unbelievable! Let's take this photo and I want it to zoom in on this bird and make it ultra sharp. Okay, this is insane! Let me zoom in on the original photo to show you how blurry the bird is. Change her name into Lola Cox. It actually pulls this off. Alright, change the word beer to context. Not bad. Now make a photo of a woman at a nightclub with this sign in the background. And it absolutely nailed it. Okay, make her head turn toward the camera. Very nice. Next, make her laugh. And it nailed this too. Alright, finally turn this into claymation style. Or what about anime style? Disney Pixar style? Okay, what about Simpsons style? And finally, low poly style. It can do everything. So ladies and gentlemen, we have a new image editor that's insanely good. It's by Black Forest Labs, which is the team behind FLUX, one of the top open source image models out there. They've been quiet for quite some time, but just yesterday they've released this super powerful model called FLUX Kontext with a K. Not only can this generate images like the regular FLUX, but you can also upload images to edit with just a text prompt. In fact, you can try it for free right now on their online platform. So I'll link to their playground page in the description below. When you sign up, you get 200 free credits to start. And one generation costs 4 credits, so this is enough to generate 50 images. So let me just sign up with Google really quickly, and that's pretty much it. So you can start to generate an image here, or you can also upload an image to edit using a text prompt. And down here, there are several models you can choose from. Of course, we have FLUX Dev, which is the simple image generator. And then we have the Pro version, which is closed source. This is by Black Forest Labs, and it's supposed to be higher quality than FLUX Dev. And then we also have FLUX.1 Pro Ultra, and then just the regular Pro. Both of these are also closed source, and they claim that 1.1 is better than the FLUX.1 models. But most importantly are these new Kontext models. We have Kontext Pro and Kontext Max. So in their documentation page, it says Max is the better model. It gives you maximum performance, greatly improved prompt adherence, and typography generation. And then Pro is the lower quality version, but it's a bit faster. So let's test out some examples right now. For most editing functions, honestly, even just the Pro version works pretty good already. First, let's try uploading this image where I slapped on a ton of copyright watermarks. So I'm just going to drag and drop it into here, and then I'm going to write remove the watermarks. And then here under settings, note that I can choose from different aspect ratios. Because this original image is square, I'm going to set this to square. And then batch size is the number of images you want to generate at once. So let's leave it at the default of 4, which would give us 4 images. And then for safety tolerance, it's basically how strong do you want the safety filter to be. I tend to just leave it at the default. And then for prompt upsampling, if you toggle this on, it would basically add more details to your prompt. But we're just going to leave it off, and then output format you can choose from all these different formats. I'm just going to leave it at PNG. So let's click generate and see what that gives us. All right, and notice that this is blazing fast. So I'm not going to pause the video, and as you can see, in just a few seconds, it was able to give me 4 images. And if I click on each one, look at that. Here's the first one. Here's the second one. The third one, and the fourth image. And for all 4 images, it looks exactly like the input photo, but all these watermarks have been removed. How insane is that? Alright, let's try something else. Notice that instead of this generate tab, you can also click on this edit tab over here. So let's drag and drop another image. I'm going to drop this image, and then let's write it is snowing heavily, and then press enter. Again, it's a pretty simple edit. Let's see what this gives us. And would you look at that? Indeed, it's the same image, but it's snowing really heavily. Notice that it retains all the details of the original image, such as the people walking in the background, plus the mic that she's holding with the original logo. So here's the first image, here's the second image, the third image, and the fourth image. Absolutely unreal. Now, instead of making it snow heavily, let's use the same input image, and let's write she is taking a selfie wearing a red bikini at the beach sunset. Let's click generate and see what that gives us. And there we go. Now, because I'm prompting it with she's taking a selfie, now she's not holding a mic anymore. Now it looks like this. So let's look at all 4 photos. Look how beautiful and consistent all these 4 photos look. This looks exactly like the woman in the input photo. And she is indeed taking a selfie at the beach during sunset. Alright, here's something else. It's also really good at editing text and preserving the style of the text in your input photo. So let's say I have this sign over here, AI never sleeps, buckle up. And for the prompt, I want to change the text buckle up to subscribe. Let's press generate and see what that gives us. Again, this is blazing fast, so I'm not even gonna pause the video. All these photos should finish generating in only a few seconds. And there we go. Notice that for all 4 photos, the text is absolutely correct. So I'm just gonna click on each one so you can view it full screen. So here's the first one, here's the second one, here's the third one, and here's the fourth one. So it's really hard to pick which one of these to use for the next generation, but let's just go with this first one. So over here, I'm going to click this pen icon to edit this image, and it's basically going to use this as the input image up here. So next I'm going to write a group of friends in a nightclub with the sign in the background. Let's see if it can generate this. Alright, now here is where we start to see more errors. So for 2 out of the 4 generations, the sign is messed up, but for the other half, the sign is actually correct. And this is a group of friends in a nightclub with the sign in the background. So here's the first example, obviously not correct. But here's the second example. The sign looks beautiful and exactly like our input photo. Here's the third generation where the sign is not correct. But then here's the 4th generation, and again the sign is indeed like the original photo. So this is a super powerful tool that allows you to change text in an image and also apply a sign or text or design into any other environment. Now, because this is so good at editing text, let's try another mischievous thing. So I'm going to upload this photo of a dummy ID, and let's change her name from Rachel Davis to Lola Cox. Let's click generate and see what that gives us. And there you go. Here are the 4 generations. So here's the first one. Notice that this is blurry because the original input photo is blurry. But as you can see, it changed her name to Lola Cox, and it preserves the same font as the original photo. And then here's the 2nd generation, here's the 3rd generation, and here's the 4th generation, which is what I prefer. I do prefer that the first and last name be in 2 separate lines. So there you go. It's ridiculously easy to change anything in a photo while preserving the original style. Now, just a warning, please do not, I repeat, do not actually do this in real life and forge fake ID photos. This is just a dummy card. This person does not exist. Alright, let's try something else. Notice that for this edit tab, if I drag and drop an image onto here to edit, the output generation is going to be the same aspect ratio as this. You can't really set the aspect ratio over here. But what if I want the output to be a square? Well, in that case, we need to click on this generate tab to edit the image. So I'm going to upload the photo over here, and then for the prompt, I'm going to put extract the denim jacket onto a white background, product photography style. I'm just going to keep it at Context Pro, which seems to work fine for most editing tasks. And then in the settings, let's set this to 1:1. So the output aspect ratio should be square. Now let's click generate and see what that gives us. All right, here is what we get. How awesome is that? Let me just expand all these images. Here is image 1, here is image 2, here is image 3, and here's the final image. So as you can see with this tool, you can take any photo of anyone wearing anything, and if you want to extract their outfit and turn that into a product photo, you can just plug it through this AI to do so. You no longer need to hire any product photographers, you don't need to set up any nice background or lighting, heck, you don't need to do anything physically. You can just plug any photo into this AI and just prompt it to create a product photo on a white background. It's become so easy. Alright, so I'm going to click on this generate tab again to edit a new image, and I'm going to upload this image of a bird that's really far away. So in fact, let me zoom in on the bird so you can see how blurry this bird is. So it's super blurry. I'm gonna upload the photo onto here, and then for the aspect ratio, let's set this to 4:3, for example. So it's basically going to crop this photo into a horizontal 4:3. And here's what I want to do. I wanted to zoom in and generate a close-up of the bird. It should have ultra sharp details of the bird and then professional wildlife photography. Let's see if it can pull this off. I would be pretty impressed if it can do so. Oh my goodness. Let's open up each of these. So here's the first generation. This is insanely detailed, and it actually retains the details of this original photo. Here's the second image. Now there are some flaws here, like this extra leg, and I don't know what this is, but for the most part, it actually retains the details and the pose of this bird and the background very well. Here's the third example. Again, this is super realistic. And then here's the fourth example. Absolutely unbelievable how it's able to actually zoom into the bird and add more details and make it look like a professional wildlife photo. All right, let's try something else. Let's go back to this edit tab, and then I'm gonna drag and drop this black and white family photo, and then let's write colorize this photo. All right, let's see what that gives us. And there you go, absolutely perfect. Let me open up each one for you. So here's the first image, here's the second image, here's the third image, and the fourth image. How awesome is that? Now we can edit this further. So let's take the third photo, for example. I'm gonna click on this pen icon, which is now going to set this as the input photo. And then we can write, change the background to a beautiful Alps landscape. Let's press generate and see what that gives us. And there you go. It even changes the lighting of the humans to match the background. So here's the first generation, here's the second generation, here's the third generation, and the fourth generation. If you try to manually do this in Photoshop, not only do you need to manually mask out the edges of all these humans, and notice that hair like this is super tricky to mask, but then once you swap the background to this sunny Alps landscape, you also need to adjust the white balance of the foreground to match the background, and it's just really complicated and takes so much effort to do so in Photoshop. But with this tool, with just one prompt, it can handle it in seconds. All right, let's try something else. I'm gonna click on this generate tab again, and I'm gonna upload this photo of this design on a window. And then I'm gonna write extract the design on the left window as a large tattoo centered on a man's back. And then for the aspect ratio, let's put 3:4, which is like a vertical portrait aspect ratio. And then let's click generate. Let's see if it can pull this off. Oh my goodness, it actually nailed it. So let's open this up. Here's the first photo. Notice that the tattoo is exactly like this design on the window. Incredible. It even has, the storefront in the background. And then here's the second photo, here's the third photo, and here's the fourth photo. Absolutely unreal. None of the other image generators could transfer the style of something as good as this. Again, here is the original photo, and here's the output. This is so good at understanding my prompt. All right, finally, I also want to see how good it is at copying characters consistently to a new scene. Thanks to Monica for sponsoring this video. Monica is an AI assistant that provides access to the best AI tools all in one place. This includes the top AI models like GPT, DeepSeek, and Gemini, plus the top image generators like Flux and Stable Diffusion, and the top video generators like Kling and Hailuo. This is a killer deal because you can use all of these in one platform for way cheaper than if you used all of these separately. You can use this as a browser extension on your desktop or on your mobile device. And their browser extension is context aware, so you can interact directly with any web page you're on. You can easily get Monica to reply to emails or summarize an article. So for example, let's say I'm on this page. I can get Monica to summarize this really technical article in just one click. And here's something even cooler. You can even generate a mind map from this content, which can help you understand ideas more visually. Note that this is way more convenient than just copying everything and going to ChatGPT to ask it to summarize the article. You can also use Monica to summarize YouTube videos. So here's an example. Let's say I'm watching this YouTube video. I can get it to generate a summary or even generate a podcast in just one click. Let's try this one. It even gives you a list of highlights with the correct timestamps, Plus, if you click on this, again, it's generating a mind map for you so you can understand everything more visually. With Monica, everything is just a few clicks away. But don't take my word for it, they have over 10 million users worldwide with a 4.9 star rating on the Chrome store. Try it out for free via the link in the description below. And when you're ready to upgrade, use my code AISearch10 for a nice discount. Full details in the description below. So let's start a new generation. And I'm going to upload this photo of an anime character, which has a super complicated outfit. Notice all these different layers and this complex design of her outfit. So I'm going to upload her photo here, and then I'm going to write, she is riding a motorcycle through a futuristic city street. For the aspect ratio, let's just leave it at 16:9, and then click generate. And there we go. So let's expand all 4 images. Here's the first one, and it indeed matches the outfit of the original photo, including this ribbon thing on the top of her head, plus this ornament thing over here, the golden designs on her sleeves. I mean, all the details match almost exactly like the reference photo. Here's the second image. Again, everything is just super consistent with the design of this character. Here's the third image. And here's the fourth image. Really impressive. So it can definitely consistently transfer characters with complex designs onto new photos. So those were some image editing examples, but notice that there's also 2 other tabs here which you can play around with. One is the fill option. So you can basically select any area from an image and edit that particular area only. So I'm going to upload this over here, and let's say I want to add a clock over here. So I just need to roughly circle this area and then write add a clock on the wall. And let's see what that gives us. All right, here is the first generation. Here's the second generation and the third generation. Pretty good. Now there's also this expand feature over here, which basically allows you to outpaint your photo or basically expand the edges of your photo. So for example, let's say I have this vertical image of a palm making coffee. Let's set this to a square image. So it's basically going to outpaint the edges over here. Let's press generate. All right, here's what we get. Here's our first generation. Notice that there are some artifacts over here along the edges, but you can easily crop those out. Here's the second generation, and here's the third generation. So it's pretty good at expanding or outcropping photos. All right, next, let's see how good it is at converting a photo into different styles. So I'm going to upload this photo of Will Smith and Queen Elizabeth eating spaghetti, of course. And let's turn this into anime style. And there you go. Here's the first generation. Here's the second generation. Here's the third generation. I don't know why Will Smith looks so sly over here. And then here's the fourth generation. Very nice. Now, instead of anime, let's turn this into Lego style. Let's see if it can pull this off. And this is not bad. There are definitely more flaws with this one. The Lego hand doesn't really look correct, but here's the first generation, here's the second generation, third generation, and fourth generation. It's not perfect, but this is a really challenging image to convert into Lego. Or instead of Lego, let's turn this into Simpsons style. Let's see if it can do that. This is pretty good. So here's the first image. I don't know why Will Smith's eyes are so wide open, but this does look like The Simpsons. Here's the second image, the third generation, and the last generation. And then finally, let's try 3D Pixar style. And here is what we get. I don't know why it keeps making Will Smith's eyes so wide open. But anyways, here's the first generation. This does look like Disney Pixar style. Here's the second generation, third generation, and fourth generation. Very nice. Now these are just a few select examples, but I'm sure you can convert photos into a ton of additional styles. Alright, so that sums up how to use this. Notice again that when you sign up, you get 200 free credits, and each generation costs 4 credits. So in total, you should get around 50 generations for your 200 credits. There is also a free and open source option, which we'll talk about in a second. So next, let's go over its specs and performance. Here are various benchmark metrics for image editing. For example, here we have 2 scores for character preservation, and as you can see, FLUX.1 Kontext, which are the bars in blue, on average outperform all the other state-of-the-art image generators like GPT and Bagel and Gemini Flash. By the way, these are all really good as well. If you want to check out my Gemini Flash image editor review, definitely see this video. And for GPT-4o, see this video. But as you can see from the benchmark scores, on average, in terms of character consistency, FLUX.1 Kontext beats the rest of these image generators. Same with instruction editing and text insertion and editing. FLUX Kontext, on average, beats the other models. And like I showed you, this model is insanely fast. So here's the latency of all these different image generators. As you may have experienced if you've been using GPT-4o for image generation, it takes a long time to generate one image. But you can see for FLUX.1 Kontext, it is incredibly fast. It takes under 5 seconds to generate an image. Now, Flux is known to be open source, right? So you might be wondering, where is the open source option for this? Well, in addition to Kontext Max and Kontext Pro, they've also mentioned Kontext Dev, which is going to be open weight, so you can download this and run it for free offline. However, this is going to be a distilled variant of Kontext. Notice that here it says the distillation process can introduce visual artifacts that impact output fidelity. So, this distilled model is not going to be as good as the Max and Pro models, which are closed source and paid. But because this is open weights, people can potentially fine-tune it and make it better for certain use cases. This is kind of like what they've done with the Flux model, where they have the Pro tier, which is closed source and paid, and the Dev and Schnell tiers, which are open source and you can do whatever you want with it. Note that for now, this is not available yet. There's no timeline on when they will release this. All we know is that it's coming soon. Alright, so that sums up my review of FLUX.1 Kontext. Hopefully this video gives you a sense of all the cool things you can do with this. From my initial testing, this is definitely the most accurate and most consistent image generator out there. And this indeed beats Google's Gemini image generator as well as OpenAI's GPT-4o image generator. So if you want to edit images with just a text prompt, this is currently the best option you can use right now. Anyways, I'll link to this announcement page plus this playground page in the description below for you to check out further. Let me know in the comments what you think of this, and if you've had a chance to play around with it, what other cool or interesting things were you able to get it to do? As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.